Hello, cannabis growers. We are back. This is a presentation for the Cannabis Education Center and the Cannabis Cultivation class at Holyoke Community College. I'm Sage, your instructor. Hopefully you just watched my presentation about the nature of light. So you have a little bit of background information on the importance of light and how it's used by plants. So in this presentation, we're going to look specifically at a few different lighting systems for cannabis. So where we're going with this is we will first talk about the visible spectrum in cannabis, then discuss briefly outdoor lighting requirements, and then indoor. And we'll look specifically at HIDs, LEDs, and CFLs. So visible spectrum and cannabis. Sunlight, as we saw before, is white light. That means that it contains all the colors of light, everything in the visible spectrum. Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. That's all coming at us from the sun. And you can see this with a prism. If you hold a prism up to a white light or the sunlight, or water droplets in the sky can act as a prism, and you see the rainbow of light. I often tell my students that we are surrounded by a rainbow of light all the time. We just can't really see it. Artificial lights can mimic this, but sometimes focus on certain wavelengths. Full spectrum lights, however, aim to get all the wavelengths of visible light. So you might see that on packaging, full spectrum lights. Any good light that you get will have multiple parts of the spectrum. So here is a continuum showing the wavelengths and the colors of the visible spectrum, all the way from the red to the violet. And then we have over on the far left side there, the infrared, and on the far right, the ultraviolet. Those two are outside of the visible spectrum. Okay, and down on the bottom, that should be a little review from last lecture. 700 nanometers plus is our reds and oranges, and then we get into the shorter wavelengths, higher energy for our blues and purples and indigo in there. Now, specifically, our cannabis plants have certain requirements for light. White light, in my opinion, is the best light for growing. And I've done many experiments in the lab on this. However, when you shift the light spectrum to the orange and red, even some of the yellows, that does help to influence flowering. And when we go to the blues and violets, that is best for vegetative growth. So when you're starting your cannabis plants, if you are limited in the spectrum that you are giving them, start out with the blues and purples, or we call those the cooler colors of light. And then as they mature, shifting over to the oranges and reds will help with flowering. And so what the plant is doing at these times is absorbing those wavelengths. We don't want to give our plants, I hopefully remember, we don't want to give them green light. Green light is what they reflect from their chloroplasts, and it's not very useful for them. So plants will absorb those blue wavelengths for photosynthesis in the vegetative growth stage and absorb those oranges and reds in the flowering stage. So for outdoor growing, we don't really have requirements for light. The sunlight is usually just fine. As long as plants are in full sun, they don't need anything else for sunlight. Sunlight does change throughout the year, stimulating growth during the spring and early summer. We do have more of the blue light coming to the plants. And then as the sun gets lower in the horizon, this is in the northern hemisphere, we end up with those more reds and yellows in the late summer, and this does help to stimulate our flower production. If, however, you're growing indoor, we have to provide this light. So I'm going to talk about these different lighting systems, and I apologize for the small font here. The first one I want to talk about is HID lighting systems. These are high intensity discharge lights. So HID refers to a wide range of different types of lights that have high intensity. Wattage and lumens here will vary depending on the exact type of light that you're getting and the brand. And you'll find that these HID lights come anywhere from 75 watts to 4,000 watts. The more watts, the more light is produced by the bulb and more lumens. What you need for optimal growth is around 600 to 1,000 watts. If you go beyond that, you might be wasting money. If you go too low, less than 600 watts, you're not going to have the growth that you need. So if you're in that range, that's a good balance. The different types of high intensity discharge lights are metal halide, mercury vapor, and high pressure sodium. And metal halide and high pressure sodium are commonly used today. They are mostly replacing the mercury vapor lights that we used to have. So the metal halides, I'm going to talk about metal halides and mercury vapor together here. Metal halides are replacing the mercury vapor. These produce more cool colors on the spectrum. So blue tones and violet tones, great for vegetative growth. And you can switch out, of course, different types of light during different growth phases if you have those resources. So this would definitely be better for the earlier parts of the plant's life. The mercury vapor, less common, very similar to the metal halide. And the other high intensity discharge light is high pressure sodium, very popular with cannabis growers, has a great spectrum, even some orange for flowering. These are the warm colors. LED lights are light emitting diode lights. These have a few benefits. They're energy efficient, they don't get too hot, and they are good quality light. Lots of colors on the spectrum. Many personal growers like LED lights because of their energy efficiency, and they also don't require as many fans to keep the area cool. So they're efficient in that way as well. What is an LED? Well, these diodes emit parts of the visible light spectrum, wavelengths of light. And so LEDs can emit different colors, and they can contain these different colors in one light itself. It could have different diodes of different colors. So you can have one light with blue diodes, great for vegetative stage, right alongside orange diodes and red diodes, best for flowering. The more wavelengths that are emitted, the more diodes you have, the better effect on the plant. The plant will absorb all the wavelengths it can for photosynthesis. The more diodes you have, however, it can cost more. So you want to make sure that you're keeping that into consideration. The primary colors of light are a little bit different than the primary colors in art. Primary colors of light are red, green, and blue, and these are some common diode colors that we see in LEDs. Together, if you have red, green, and blue diodes, as you can see here, they overlap in the middle to form white light. So we get all those different colors in the visible spectrum combined here from those different diodes, which is great. This is really efficient for flowering and vegetative growth. I want to talk a little bit more about the high pressure sodium lights because these are so popular with big grow systems and the industry. These come in many different sizes and wattages and good spectrum. They lean towards orange, so really great for flowering, but they do emit a lot of different colors on the visible spectrum. I've been to some local grow facilities that have high pressure sodium lights, um, and they have been debating whether to go high pressure sodium or LED. Of course, the initial cost of an LED system is high if you already have high pressure sodium lights. So when you have a grow operation, that is something to consider what you have already. And other considerations are also lumens. You never should have less than 2,500 lumens, even just for one plant. The larger the area, the more lumens you will need to light up that area. So you need to balance the expenses of lighting your area with the revenues you will get from your grow operation, especially if you are in a big industrial cannabis growing facility. These are things to consider. Also, further considerations are fans. Lights and electricity can cause grow rooms to get very dry, and this can also very warm, and this can also lead to dryness, low humidity. So ideal growing temperatures for cannabis are around 70 to 85 degrees with a 60 to 80% humidity. So we don't want to get too hot in our grow rooms, and lights can contribute to that heat. Fans can limit that and also provide good airflow that will prevent some plant diseases like bud rot botrytis, which I'll talk about in the plant pathology lecture. So fans can also cost money to run, cost money in down payment to get them. So we need to think about that in our grow rooms. Further, mylar and white color. These are reflective materials that can maximize your light. Grow rooms can be painted white or aligned with mylar to reflect the white light or reflect the light coming from your lighting systems. So this can make a large grow room very, very bright. If you are a grow technician, invest in a pair of sunglasses. You'll need them. Lastly, what you grow can influence what type of lighting system you should use. This is from Royal Queen Seeds, a really reputable cannabis seed company. They recommend high-intensity discharge lights for auto-flowering plants because these plants have a faster growth and a shorter time in their growing situation, suitable for auto-strange because of the potency. Feminized seeds, they recommend LED lights. Slower growth, a longer time. And so here we would want something that's more energy efficient. And then they have compact fluorescent lights that they recommend for micro growing and seedlings. These are good for small spaces. They're low heat and can be placed close to the canopy and not burn the plants. Light should always be away from the plants and away from other things that can catch fire. So even when we have very safe lighting systems, we want to keep that in mind. So safety first. Of course, if you're a small scale grower, there are some excellent stores that can help you out. In Hadley, there is Here We Grow, a garden center that specializes in hydroponics, and the owner is very knowledgeable about different lighting systems. And there are other hydroponic stores close by in the Pioneer Valley of Massachusetts that can help you make the best selection. Lighting systems for small scale might seem like a big cost, and it is, but in the long run, you're going to have better plants for it. In a large grow operation, you may already have a lighting system set up. If you are considering setting one up, hope you take this information into consideration. As always, please feel free to email me with any questions that you have and check our Moodle page for some more information and resources. Thanks a lot.